All right, so we are live. Welcome to the third ever Harland D Podcast. I'm your host, Harland D. White. On this podcast, we focus on personal finance with the goal to educate, inspire, and encourage others on their wealth building journeys by sharing our own successes and failures as it relates to handling money. I myself have been on a personal finance, or more, I guess, specifically a debt free journey for about 13 months now. And I've been able to reduce my debt by a little over $44,000 with a little under $6,000 remaining. And the whole time I've been sharing my story on YouTube. And with that, I've been able to meet a lot of great people. And one of those people being Nate. So, Nate, really appreciate you joining me today on the podcast. If you want to start off by giving a brief introduction about yourself, and then we can jump into it.
Hey guys, I'm Nate Polmateer. I'm from Canada. Yeah, it's pretty cold up here, but I'm pretty good. I'm a husband, married for 16 years, have 10 children, and have been on this personal finance journey seemingly forever. But yeah, that's pretty much who I am.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually one of the reasons I moved from Illinois to Florida, to get away from the cold. So you're north of Illinois, so I can only imagine.
Yeah, winters get pretty cold.
Yep. So you do have a YouTube channel around personal finances. How long ago did you start the YouTube channel, and why did you end up choosing to focus on personal finance?
All right, so I started my YouTube channel on February 24th, and I actually wanted to start it like in 2017. But I just kept putting it off and thinking, I need the right equipment. I need this, I need that. So in February, I just, hit record.
Okay.
But,
yep.
So the reason why I started personal finance is this is really a huge passion for me. In like my real life, I'm constantly looking for ways to save money, to be frugal. Being a large family, we have to be frugal as possible. But at the same time, it's really rewarding when you see people that you've given advice to also succeed. Like at my previous workplace, I showed them how to just budget, and that some kids, they were like 21, 22 years old, these ladies, and they had never done a budget in their life. So I just set it out for them and just helped them out with it. And they were like, man, I can't believe how much money I'm saving, and or how much money I was spending on like eating out and that kind of stuff, right? So the real reason why I started the channel was I want to help empower other people, and whether that's 100 people, 1,000 people, or just one person. I just want to see people succeed with their finances, because it can really kind of suck when you don't succeed, right? And we've all kind of been there.
Yeah. So who taught you about how to handle money, or when did that passion actually pick up in your own life?
So I would say, let me try to get my thoughts together here. So when I was 17, my mom moved to the US, and she kind of had me stay with my sister, who was 21, in a small city in Canada called Hamilton. And I worked on a farm there, and the actual boss of the farm was the one that started me on finances. He was like, I'm 17 years old, and this is like 2003. He's like, hey, Nathan, do you like invest in RRSPs, or do you have mutual funds or anything like that? Because I was just like blowing money, buying stereos and like all that kind of stuff, right? So that's really where I got started, by him just sitting down with me and just kind of being that father figure and just saying, hey, you really need to put a budget out. You need to like plan for your future. You need to plan for your retirement. I know you're only 17, but if you just put $25 aside a month right now, this can grow like exponentially. And that got me interested in finances and just wanted me to dive in.
So did you get started right at 17? Did you actually put your $25 aside?
I did. Yeah, Harlan, I did. It wasn't like, oh yeah, that was a great idea. And then I turned 27 and was like, maybe I should do what that guy told me 10 years ago. I actually did. I went down so in Canada, we have like 4 big banks. Anyway, one of them is called TD Canada Trust. I drove down to TD Canada Trust the next day and just said, hey, I want to open a mutual fund. Was that the best way to start my financial journey? Probably not, because it was just like, here's money. And I didn't even research it or anything. And you find out later that you're paying way too many fees for mutual funds, like 3-4%, and it didn't grow, but it got me started, right?
Yeah, so I have a 19-year-old daughter, and like I wish she'd have been as willing as you to just go to the bank the next day and put her money into mutual funds. So still working on it, definitely. So I guess so that was a good start for you. How would you say since that point in time, have you been able to, pretty much stay on top of it when it comes to your personal finances? Have you made any big, like, what you would consider financial mistakes with getting like a lot of debt or anything like that?
Yeah. So this personal finance journey is exactly that. It's a journey. And sometimes there's going to be lows and sometimes there's going to be highs, right? So starting in 2003, started saving that money. By around 2007, 2008, I had about $15,000 in a mutual fund sitting there, right? Now, I don't know how much of your audience was around in 2008, 2009.
I was definitely there. Yes, it was an interesting time.
Right?
Yeah.
So I lost my job in 2008, 2009, and had to find a job. And I ended up finding a job that was like paying like $8 an hour. And we had 3 kids at the time. So worst time, biggest financial mistake, worst time ever to cash out your mutual funds, but it was necessary, right? At the time.
Okay. Yeah.
Didn't have an emergency fund. So there's there's a mistake right there. So I cashed out my mutual funds completely. Cashed out the 14,000. Took the 40% hit on taxes.
So how much did that drop before you? Because everything like tanked at that point in time. So did you cash out like at the bottom or?
Harland, it was pretty close to the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty close to the bottom. It was October 2008, and I think September, actually, August or September was when the market just completely tanked.
Okay.
And just dropped like 40%. And I was, I cashed out October of that year. And then I actually didn't get back into investing for a while, for like 7 more years. And then I got back in 2017. I started investing again and putting aside money. So like caution is, it can take you a long time to build that back up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just all gone and you don't have an emergency fund. And yeah, it's a terrible place to be.
Yeah, I had not quite the same, but I think it was in 2013. It was when I started making some bad decisions with money. I think shortly after that, I ended up cashing out my first 401k, and then I was at another job, and I left that, and I cashed out another 401k. And so that's one of the biggest financial mistakes I would say that I've made. And it took me about 7 years, which was last year, before I actually started getting back on track and handling money appropriately. So definitely can feel your pain there.
Yeah, I don't even want to do the numbers on how much that $14,000 from 2008 would be now. For like 12 years of compound interest, you're probably looking at $60,000, $70,000. Like,
yeah, I can, yeah, definitely. Because if we go back and look at how much has grown since that point in time, it's probably don't want to go back and look to make that calculation.
When Starbucks stock was like $5.
Okay. So I guess, you did real good, I guess, stocking away money in that mutual fund. But I guess one of the things you maybe could have done differently was have like not mutual fund. One of the things you may have been able to do differently was have an emergency fund outside of the mutual fund. Or did you have both at that point in time?
So that's exactly right. I didn't have an emergency fund.
Okay.
So I was budgeting, but it was it was kind of more like expense tracking than it was like, because when you actually budget, you need goals. But I wasn't setting any goals. I was just kind of tracking my expenses. I knew the best part of it was I knew where my money was going, and that was about it.
Yep.
But I didn't know about having an emergency fund. I didn't know that I should be having sinking funds. I didn't know that I should be setting goals for myself and all those things. And those are some of the key mistakes. Even having a bit of money aside in an emergency fund is a great idea, even $1,000, so you don't have to go into debt.
Gotcha. And is that so? In that pretty much where you were at for that 7-year period before you really got back on track? You were just really just tracking your money and things like that, but not really budgeting or building an emergency fund. Were you investing it at all in that period?
Not really. No, I wasn't investing. I didn't get back into. I actually closed my mutual fund. Like, so once I cashed out, I just closed it. It was coming out automatically out of my bank account, but I just told them to stop taking money out of my bank account and just completely closed it. And then I didn't get back in until around 2017, 2018.
Okay. And then from your channel, I know another interest of yours, I have a similar interest, is cryptocurrency.
Yes.
How did you get involved in cryptocurrency? Was it around the same time when you got back investing, or because I know you've been looking at it for a while?
Yeah, that's right. So in late 2016, like November, December 2016, I worked at a company, and in the office was a guy named John. And John was like all about cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. And I always just kind of passed it off as internet money. And I actually do recall seeing a television show called Blacklist back in 2013. And they mentioned Bitcoin and Ripple in the show. And I was like, oh, that's weird. I should have invested. But yeah, so John talked about it all the time, and I was like, okay, whatever. And there's one thing about people that really believe in cryptocurrency and really think that it's going to change the future, and it is kind of the future of money. They're almost evangelists for it, like cryptocurrency evangelists. And I would say John was a cryptocurrency evangelist. And he would always plug it, always tell me, hey, Nate, you should get in. So I started watching it at the beginning of 2017 and just kind of off and on. Oh, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get in. I don't know if I'm going to get in. And then around October, it went to like $4,000. And John's like, man, you need to like get in. Even if you put in like $100, Nate, just get in. And I was like, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. And then November hit, and it's just like 10,000, 12,000, 17,000. And I'm like, okay, I better get in.
So at the time, was that?
What's that?
Was that the time? Didn't they have like a crash in 2017 or?
So 2017 was so they did have a crash in August when Bitcoin Cash came out. So that's a hard fork of Bitcoin. So there was a crash, and there was a whole bunch of like China fear, uncertainty, and doubt, FUD. And so that happened in August, and then it went down a lot. But in November, it really picked up speed. And in December is when it hit those highs of like 20K. And I got in just before that, and was like, man, I got to get into this. And I just started buying it and just like maxing out my purchases on Coinbase. And it's like, I think when I first opened the account, you could only like put in $300 a week. And like, I was like maxing that out immediately. Okay. And it just, my first coin, so I bought on Coinbase, I bought some Bitcoin, and I transferred it over to Binance. And I actually sat down with my wife and said, Stacy, this is going somewhere. I want to put in $1,000. And she's like, $1,000 into internet money? And I'm like, Stacy, I think there's something to this Bitcoin thing that John's been telling me for about a year and a half. So she's like, all right, $1,000, no more than that. I'm like, okay. So I transfer the $1,000. I put it onto Binance, and I buy Tron. So Tron is TRX, and it was less than 3 cents. And so I think all of December and January was just me coming into the office, like my general manager and everyone else asking me, where is Tron at, Nathan? Because it was like, it went from 4 cents all the way up to like 37 cents. And so my $1,000 was like, yeah, it was insane. I think it was like 14,000 at one point. And you think I would have cashed out at the top, right?
Of course, you know how to time the market just right.
No. What I ended up doing was once it came down to 21 cents, I did cash out, and then I diversified into other cryptocurrencies. And then I started actually doing some research into different cryptos, what they actually did. So I think my first start of it was like this speculation, right? Like, oh, this can go anywhere. And I think that's really most amateurs, that's where it starts. And then they figure out the rest later. But you should try to figure out those other things first.
Yeah, you probably should. I know myself. I got involved just this year in February, or no, end of January, and it was right when GameStop was like really exploding, and like it had a huge run up to like almost $500, something like that. And I was like, man, I wish I was investing, but I really wasn't investing. I was just putting all my money towards paying down debt. And then all of a sudden, I was watching Meet Kevin live show and live stream, and he was talking about Dogecoin, and then Elon tweeted about Dogecoin. So I'm like, I had $25 in Robinhood, and I was like, I just opened up my account. I was like, let me put this money in there. So I did that. $25 turned into $75 later that night. And I was like, whoa, this is amazing. But so my first month was spent putting about $275 into Dogecoin. At that point in time, it was like 4 cents. So its cents was like, I've already pulled out like $700, and I still have about $1,000 some dollars profit
Crazy.
for that. So it's definitely crazy. And I would say I don't advise anyone else to get in Dogecoin specifically, but it was because of that experience that I actually looked up what Dogecoin was. I saw that there were some benefits like the faster transaction speeds than Bitcoin. And then that made me look at other cryptocurrencies. So it's definitely a topic that I am more interested in, that I try to educate myself on more so now. So very cool. So have you been investing periodic within crypto since 2017?
Yeah. So I've dollar cost averaged ever since. Okay. And just putting like 100, 150 bucks into crypto every month. Yeah. So it's been really good. Although I'll tell you a super sad story.
Let's hear it. That's what we're here for.
We're here to hear the sad stories of me. So I told you that I started my new job like off screen earlier. I told you I started my new job. I left corporate, and we were like completely debt free. But when I started my new job, we had like a month to sell our house. So what we did was we bought a trailer. So we loaded up on $35,000 in debt there. And then for almost a year, I took time off from work. In Canada, we get paternity leave. And the check is huge. The check is huge from the government. It's $300 every 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure you could do a lot with that.
But we had,
how many kids?
We had about $40,000 in an emergency fund. So we sat down and we thought it was the best for our family. And we're like, you know what? This is the best for our family. We have this emergency fund. We can tap into that throughout the year when we need to. But then that job offer came, and then the trailer came, and then we started using our credit cards again, just to because the emergency fund just drained. We basically drained it, right?
So, I can see how it can go pretty quickly. Yeah.
So August 2019, I have 1.5 Bitcoin total from dollar cost averaging over the time.
Okay.
Not just in Bitcoin, but like in all alt currencies. But like when I cashed them out, I cashed them all out into Bitcoin and then sold the Bitcoin.
Okay. Got it.
But I was really smart, and I did keep 0.03. So 2019, I cashed it out. I think Bitcoin was at around 12,000. So the altcoins, I took a massive loss on those, and I was able to tax harvest those.
Okay.
Bitcoin, I actually gained on that. It wasn't much. It was like $6,000 or something like that. But so cashed out 1.407 Bitcoin.
So how much would that have been worth if you were?
So at the top, so I'm talking in Canadian dollars. So that would have been 9,000 US. So at the top, my Bitcoin in Canadian dollars would have been $115,000.
Okay.
So what is this a lesson?
Yes.
Don't get into debt. It has nothing to do with the fact that I sold Bitcoin, and I'm not going to dwell on that. I'm not going to lie either that when Bitcoin started going up, I was like, What have I done?
But I guess based on your current situation at the time, that's essentially what you felt you needed to do at that point.
It was the best decision we could make at that time. It was like, hey, get rid of that debt. Like we can't even like service the debt. And I was like, you know what, Stacy's my wife. I said, I have my Bitcoin and I'm going to sell it. And she literally like sat down and was like, are you sure, Nathan? Like you're going to sell your Bitcoin? Like,
man, so that's okay. So where are you at now these days with debt and the personal finance situation with debt?
So I don't know if you've been following my channel for long, but
yeah,
about April, I think I kind of made a boo-boo. So we have like on my app, I have my investment account and I have my credit card account and I have all that stuff. And it's so good that everything is all in one place and you can just pay it. And I've been just like, I don't know, stressed out and stuff and brain fog. And I just transferred like $6,500 from my checking account into my investment account. And so this isn't a personal investment account where you could just take that money back out. It's actually, in Canada, we have an RRSP, which is like a 401k. So you actually would pay taxes to take it out. So it'd be like 30% tax. So if I put it in, I'd have to take 30% out right away. So I just left it in there. But what that did was that put us behind on our credit card. So now so what we do with our credit cards, or one credit card, what we do with our one credit card is we use it like a debit card. Okay. And then pay it off at the end of every month. And we've been doing that diligently for the last 3 or 4 years, except for that month.
Oh man. So you're still paying back that debt because it was supposed to go towards.
Oh no, Harlan, there's more than that. Like I could have had that paid off in June, but then we bought this house and we needed a down payment. So what happens when that cash flow comes into my bank? I was like, okay, I have the $5,000, but I know it has to go towards that credit card. But I need that $5,000 for the down payment. So here. So right now, our credit card has that 6 plus the 5, and then we have a credit line that we're paying off because of the move and all that. And that's just, so yeah, it's a journey. I think so at the beginning of the year, my goal is to pay off $27,000 Canadian, so about $23,000 US in a credit line at the end of the year. Have that paid off, and then have our trailer paid off. And our trailer right now has $18,000 left owing on it. So our goal is to pay off the credit line of $27,000, pay off the trailer, and in the midst of that, I've added $11,000 more debt.
And I did see that video. That was an interesting story about how you guys found this new house. It sounded like you guys were essentially just driving and saw a house that you liked. And can you talk about that story and like how this new house that you guys are moving into and how you guys found that?
Yeah, so we're in the city right now. We're in the small town, but we love the country. We came from a town called Niagara-on-the-Lake, which our farmhouse was surrounded by vineyards. It'd be like, I don't know, like California or something like that, or like all the vineyards in that. So we just love the country. So we were out having a picnic with our kids. And then after the picnic, we're like, hey, let's go for a drive. So we just go for a drive down a country road. And I was like, oh, hey, look, there's a for sale sign. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's go check it out. So we turn down the road, pull up in front of the house, and we're just sitting there. And then some guy pulls up in an SUV, and he's like, are you waiting for a real estate agent? And we're like, no, we just like the house. It's like something that we think we might want to buy. And he's like, oh, like, do you want to see inside of it? And we're like, yes, we do. And then so it's the owner, like he's a cash crop farmer. And so he brings us in, and then we open up the doors and get all the kids out. So all of our 10 kids are piling out of this giant white van. And he's like, oh my goodness, you have so many children. This is amazing. And so he brings us through the house. And then after he brings us through, the house is like, it's a 100-year-old house. So it's built in 1900. It's all brick. And the house is like locked in 1971. But whoever was in it before, like cleaned it like nothing else. Like it's pristine, but it's just like really dated, which is actually really good because you can get value out of a home that way, right? Like if it's really kept well, but it just needs some cosmetic work, you can do that and gain some equity. So after that, he's like, hey, do you like cows? He's a Dutch guy. And I was like, yeah, I like cows. He's like, your kids like cows? And I was like, yeah, kids like cows. He's like, all right, come down to my place. So we drive down the road to his house. We have lunch with his wife and him. And then his beef cows, he shows the kids the beef cows. And then the beef cows get out. And he's like, oh, my son's gone for the day. And I'm like, well, I can get some rubber boots on and like go help. And so I get some boots on, help put the beef cows back in. And then after that, after everything was said and done, we were going home. We're like, so Joe, like, we want to buy the house. What do you want to do here? And Joe's like, well, yeah, we'll sell it to you. I was like, okay, so like, do you want this in writing? And he's like, yeah, that's a good idea. So he goes in, gets a pen, gets a sheet of like copy paper, hands it to me, and is like, all right, write down what you think. And then so I'm like, I, Nate Polmateer, will promise to pay Joe after we sell our house, and Joe's going to let us move in before we buy the house, and I promise to pay you $5,000 in a deposit. Is that good? And then he's like, yeah, that's good. So we both sign it and then get in our van, drive away. And then I call up my real estate agent. Hey, Brian, you're going to have to sell our house. What? Yeah, we just bought a house. What? What did you do? Then I told him the story. And he's like, yeah, like you shouldn't have done any of that.
Yeah,
I don't even think that contract's legit. Did you get a copy? I was like, no, I left it with Joe. And he's like, yeah, no, that's not a thing. Like this isn't like 1915, Nathan.
Yeah, that was hilarious when I heard you tell that story. Were you even looking for a house at that point in time?
No, not really. Like we've been kind of like browsing houses, which is a very dangerous thing, by the way. But we weren't really looking for a house at all. And it also comes at like this pinnacle time when Nathan's finances are just kind of like, because I just transferred that money into my RSP and all this is happening, and it just seems to happen that way. So
did any of that play into your decision? Do you ever think like, man, now I'm gonna have to explain like on YouTube this financial decision I just made? Any of that ever factor in? Like I know sometimes,
to be honest, yeah, it does. It definitely, it's like, and it's not I have to share this with YouTube, but it's like, what is my character going to be like in this moment? How am I going to actually put on display and tell people, hey, this is how personal finances are, and show them that, you could mess up and things, or am I just going to fake it? Yeah. So yeah, it definitely plays a part, but I'm just throwing myself out there and letting me be the punching bag for you guys, so you can see, but now you guys are going to get to see how I work through that, right? Which I think is really cool, and how the sale of our house and all those other things, right?
Yeah, so that's very cool. I know for myself too. That's whenever I make certain decisions, it's like, man, is this gonna, especially if it's gonna impact like how quickly I pay down my debt and stuff like that. So it definitely, I think, has helped keep me accountable over this last year. So I appreciate that. So you have a huge family. How does that play into your budgeting or your personal finances? Any tips for anybody with huge families like yours? Do you feel like you have to do anything differently than most, or any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So with a large family, or even anyone in general, you could apply the concepts that we use to your life as a single person or as like a couple with 2 kids or 1 kid or no kids. It's just really seeing where your money's going and counting every dollar and knowing that, you know what, eating out is a massive privilege and you can't do that every day. Like as a single person, it's easy to just eat out every day, right? And spend hundreds of dollars a month. But as a large family, it's like, well, then you might not have food at the other end. Some of the big decisions that we make is on food. So we buy, we do a CSA, which is a community shared agriculture program. You spend $1,500 at the beginning of the year, and now we're getting about $90 in groceries every week. Just started this week, and it's going to go all the way to the end of October.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
$90 of vegetables, fresh vegetables. So you have to cook everything from scratch. Every meal in our house, Harlan, is like Thanksgiving dinner. Like you're like seriously, like you're cooking for 12 people, right? Although David is only 1 and he's starting to eat, but yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So I'm trying to think what else, anything else you want to touch on? I'm trying to think what other topics we have. So in terms of, how about this, in terms of investing? So I know portion goes, you're putting towards crypto. Any other things that you're investing in currently?
So right now, one big thing that people should take advantage of, if they can, is their employer matching their investments. So there's definitely positives to it. There's some drawbacks. I would say the positives way outweigh they outweigh the negatives. So the positive is for us, my employer will match 5%. So I put in 5%. My employer matches 5%. So you get 10% invested. Nice. What is that though? That's 100% return immediately. Immediately, you're getting 100% return on your money, and then you're investing it. So you're not spending it on other things, but you're immediately getting 100% return. People don't usually look at it that way, but that's what it is. The drawback is you have to use whatever brokerage that they choose. So I use Sun Life as the brokerage that I use. So $448 a month goes into my Sun Life account. Now, even with these 401k or RRSP employer matching, you can find out, just ask the questions, can I direct those myself? So you could just put it in a big pile and they just put it wherever they want. And then you end up with like 30% bonds or something.
Got it. Yep.
So I chose, I want to direct it myself. I know my own risk tolerance. So I'm going to direct it myself. And like 95% of my investments are in equities. So they're in index funds though. Yep. So I have US index fund, a Canadian index fund, and an international index fund. What this gives me is a basket of every like stock in the world, essentially. So it hedges against any sort of downturn. And then I have my personal accounts where I direct invest on my own as well.
Okay, cool. So so with the direct investing, you're picking individual stocks?
Yeah. So right now so we have $23,000 in that account. Okay. And so that's what I started around 2017 with like zero. And started putting in $100 a month. Now it had 17,000, but as you know, $6,000 went in there really quickly. So one of the things I wrestle with is when you see on social media, on Facebook groups, on YouTube, these groups that are telling you to invest in so many different stocks, and then it's really difficult to track them. So my method, or the way I go about it, is I look into value companies and companies that are going to hold out for the long term. So if I'm going to buy a stock, would I be willing to put this money in that stock for 10 years? Whether I keep it in there for 10 years or not, would I be willing to put it in for 10 years?
Got it.
I don't know if I would say that about a lot of weed stocks. I don't know if I'd put it into a weed stock for 10 years.
Right. Yeah.
Or AMC. Like those are great opportunities, maybe, or they could be not so great opportunities. I don't know, but And one of the reasons, and maybe some of your audience might be like, that's silly. Like, you're so young. Like, I'm 35 and, you have plenty of time. But one of the reasons I operate that way is because I have a large family. So I have 10 kids. And if things were to go bad really quickly and I needed to pull out, those stocks, heaven forbid I do, but if I had to, then it's not all going to be gone. I'm going to have all kinds of tendies.
Got it. Very cool. That's cool. So yeah, I hope to do a lot more investing. I started last year. I pretty much cut out most of my investing. However, I did start back to my 401k. My employer matched up to, well, you put in 6%, they'll pay up to 4%. So I started maxing that out for my 401k this year. And then I've started doing some individual stocks and some crypto. So I can't wait to get done with my debt-free journey, which should be a few months. I think September is the timeline if nothing drastic happens, and hope to do some more investing. So
yeah,
cool, man.
I think there is, like, I don't know if you want to touch on it or not, but there is something about like paying off debt or investing, or paying off your house or investing. And there's so many different like opinions out there about, what, you shouldn't pay off your house because it's a good debt, or you shouldn't pay off your debt because you can make so much more in the market. What are your thoughts on like those kinds of things?
Yeah. So it was funny. I saw some Instagram posts. I would say the name, but I'll probably mess it up. But he did a post, and basically he was saying, like, once you're out of debt, you have your emergency fund, and he's like, should you spend all your money to get your house paid off so you have a paid off house, or should you just pay the minimum and then invest it? And I didn't read all of it, but he was basically saying you're right either way in that particular case. So I haven't thought deeply about the whole pay off the house thing because I don't have a house, so I haven't really put that much thought into it. But I have changed my opinion on whether or not you should invest or just put everything towards paying down debt. Last year, I pretty much focused on paying down debt. And actually looking back, I'm not necessarily angry that I did that. But then this year, I just started to do both. So I started paying down debt and investing. And I feel better doing it that way. And I think more so it's the matter of like how much debt you have and how long that's going to take you to pay off. I think for me personally, I would have been okay either way. If I'd have just focused on paying down debt, I might already be out of debt at this point in time. However, I do feel as though I've learned a lot, started investing and started building that up. So personal finance, so I think it really depends on the individual's circumstance. I don't think it's right or wrong either way. I think you definitely can, though, pay down debt and invest at the same time. For me personally, I just prioritize a certain amount that I'm going to pay down debt, make sure I take care of that first. And then if I have some money left over, I'll put that into investments. So what about you?
Well, one thing I didn't mention earlier was one of the things that really got me into personal finances was actually Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. And I almost cultishly followed his like tactics, right? And I think there's a lot of people that do. And
that was me too. Yeah.
But because a lot of it does make sense, right? It is about, he says so many times, like, it's not a math problem. If it was a math problem, then people wouldn't be paying, like, using credit cards. And he's right. It's all about emotion in that. But I've always put a little bit aside towards investing. And I've even struggled through that, thinking, you know what, I should stop investing. I should
pay off my debt. So did you that when you were following Dave? So did that come into question as far as whether or not, like,
it did, like, really, like, but by the end of it, I'm going to have no debt, but I'm also going to have no savings. Like, so that's where I kind of landed. And so I tried to find, I literally tried to find videos that he did to find if there was like a loophole somewhere where, like, he said, you can still continue to like, I'm like, all right, where are they? They're here somewhere. And he does mention something about like a retirement account. If you have a retirement account, continue to contribute to that. So I was like, there it is. There's my loophole.
Oh man, I was going to say, he didn't even say that. Well, the reason why I stopped contributing to my 401k was because he recommended not contributing to the 401k.
Oh.
So I stopped that. It was only for like a few months last year. Then I started back this year and putting even a little bit more. But I did see something too. I think if you're paying off debt over 3 or 5 years, of him saying that, okay, well then you might can invest or something like that. So very interesting. Yeah, he was a big influence on my desire to get out of debt. So
the house thing too, as well, for like we have a mortgage, and it's for like $413,000.
Okay.
Our interest rate's like 2.8%. But like, should I invest or should I put that extra money towards my mortgage? Like, I could pay my mortgage off in 7 years, but after 7 years, I could also and it's just as you said, Harland, it's a personal choice. Yeah. You're not right or wrong either way. And I actually contributed to or equate it to risk aversion. How much risk are you willing to take? Because having a mortgage is still risky. It is a risk you're taking, right? If you lost your job, if I lost my job, and I'm the sole income earner of our family. My wife doesn't work. So if I lost my job, it would be bad news bears.
Very cool. Yeah, I heard Chris Hogan say debt equals risk. Kind of stuck with me. So
yeah, for sure.
Cool, Nate. Well, I appreciate you again jumping on here with me. Any final things you want to leave off with?
No, this was great. I'd love to do this again and just talk about different topics. And we could do a podcast on just crypto, or we could do a podcast on whatever. Yeah, I'd be up for anything. I'm trying, like, I've pushed out so many crypto videos recently that I'm becoming a crypto channel. and I'm trying not to do that, but it's difficult when you can only like put out one video a week. And I tried doing more videos, but doing the move and all this, I'm going to slow down, and then October or something, I'll put more out. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to put out more content because I have not been consistent throughout the whole year, even putting out one video. So, but I am really interested in crypto. And so I think by putting out a video, it forces me to have to learn a little bit more about it. And so I figure I'd kill two birds with one stone by learning about it and then sharing what I learned with other people. Still do a video every week around my debt-free journey until I get that paid off. And then now I want to start doing these podcasts. So we'll definitely see how it goes.
Amazing. Forward. Props to you for paying that off. Like, that's such that takes a lot of hard work and just determination. So good on you, Harland, for doing that.
All right. Appreciate it, Nate. We'll have to do it again. Talk to you later.
All right. See ya.